G'day curd nerds. Today we're making goat's milk cheddar. So goat's milk cheddar is the same as a normal cheddar. However, in this recipe I'm using the stirred curd method or the farmhouse method, which is very simple and it doesn't take much effort at all. For those of you who are a little bit daunted by the cheddaring process, this version of cheddar, especially using goat's milk, is definitely the one for you. So, without further ado, let's get into this simple method of making a cheddar, but instead of cow's milk, today we're using goat's milk. So don't forget to sanitize your equipment. I'm using Caldemere Farms goat milk for this recipe, and I've got everything laid out on a nice clean tea towel. So the ingredients for goat's milk cheddar, it's 8 litres or 2 gallons of goat's milk. I'm using pasteurised milk. Half a teaspoon or 2.5 millilitres of calcium chloride diluted in 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. 1/8 of a teaspoon of MA4000 series mesophilic starter culture. 1/2 teaspoon or 2.5 millilitres of single strength liquid rennet diluted in 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. 2 tablespoons of cheese salt, which is non-iodised. You can use cheese wax or vacuum pack the cheese. Plus you'll need a little bit of salt for rubbing. So heat your milk up to 29 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And then add in the calcium chloride solution and stir it well. This will add a little bit of soluble calcium back in so that the curds can set better when using pasteurised milk. Now add the MA4000, I'm using MA4001, sprinkle that over the surface of the milk. Wait 5 minutes for the powder to rehydrate. So after 5 minutes, stir it well. This way it'll get incorporated into the milk. So I'm stirring for about 30 seconds. So allow the milk to ripen for 30 minutes. This will increase the acidification of the milk. So now we're going to give it a quick stir and then add the rennet solution and stir that all the way through. You can gently stir that up and down or in a figure of 8, whatever floats your boat. So stir it for no longer than 1 minute. And at the end just still the milk. Pop on the lid and we're going to let it set for 1 hour. One hour later, we're going to check for a clean break. I can see that the curds are pulled away from the sides of the pot a little bit. There's a nice clean break there, so we're going to cut the curds now into 1/2 or 1.25 centimetre cubes. So I'm just doing the horizontals there and then using my trusty curd knife to do the verticals. So I'll cut them one way and then I'll turn the knife 90 degrees and cut them perpendicular. Trying to get as close as possible to the correct size. Okay, pop the lid back on. We're going to allow the curds to sit for the next 10 minutes. This allows the curd cubes to heal a little bit so you don't get a sloppy curds. Don't want sloppy curds, there's nothing worse. So gently stirring that to prevent the curds from matting. Now we're going to increase the temperature of the curds after we've just stirred it a little bit. So it's at 29 Celsius there. So we're going to crank up the temperature to 37 degrees Celsius or 98 Fahrenheit. Now we're going to do that by 2 degrees Fahrenheit every 5 minutes. Now I was stirring about every 3 minutes just to stop the curds from matting during this time. Now you do this over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Mine took about 45 minutes, but you can do it a little bit quicker. Notice I'm just cutting anything that's too large there. And just a quick stir. So once you've reached the target temperature, there we go, 37, perfect. So maintain the temperature now for 45 minutes and keep stirring every 3 minutes or so, just to prevent the curds from matting. This is called cooking the curds. So once the curds are cooked, we're going to allow them to rest for 5 minutes so they sink to the bottom. You can now remove your heat source. You don't need that anymore. Just pulling the water out of the water bath and preparing for the next step. Just coating my colander there with a cheesecloth. So now drain the curds into the cheesecloth lined colander. You can collect the whey if you wish and use my 15 ways with whey video to utilise that whey. But I already had too much, so I poured it down the sink. Get as much of the curds out of the pot as you possibly can and just leave the pot on the side there. Allow the curds to drain for 5 minutes. Now you can cover them if you wish, but I didn't in this case. So after 5 minutes, just gather up the cheesecloth. And we're going to place the curds back into the pot. Just a gentle squeeze to get any excess whey out. And just flip the curds out back into the pot. Give it a little bit of a shake. There we go. Now save the cheesecloth for later. But now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of salt and mix it through the curds gently. Don't want to mix it too roughly because you'll start losing some of the milk fat out of the curds. So now we're going to line the mould. I'm using my 165mm mould that we sell at Little Green Workshops. And I'm going to put the curds into the mould. You can see why I say that the stir curd method is very simple compared to the full cheddaring process. So now I've got the curds in the mould. We're going to press the cheese. Firstly, just going to put the loose part of the cloth over the top of the cheese and put the follower on top. And we're going to press the cheese at 9 kilograms or 20 pounds. Just estimating that with my spring press. So I'm pressing it down to about 1/4 of the spring closure distance. Now keep it pressed for the next 30 minutes. Now if you want to see how my cheese press works, I'll put a link in the info card now. So remove the cheese from the press. And just gently peel away the cheesecloth because it's very delicate after this first pressing. Now it didn't stick to the cloth, I was very gentle in doing this. Remember the cheese is very moist at the moment, still got a lot of whey in there to get out. But spread the cheesecloth out, flip it over, and we're going to pop it back into the basket and repress it. There we go. So fold the largest part of the cloth back over the cheese again. There we go. Pop the follower on top and pop it back in the press. This time we're going to press at 14 kilograms or 30 pounds for 1 hour and 30 minutes. So after the 1 hour and 30 minutes, we're going to remove it from the basket again And we're going to flip it over. Now, the rind has consolidated a little bit better this time. It's so white. I can't believe it. Not used to using goat's milk. Remember, the goat's milk cheese is white because goat's milk doesn't have very much beta-carotene in it, like cow's milk does, which makes cow's milk cheeses slightly yellowish. Anyway, pop it back in the basket, fold the cloth over, put the follower on top, and now we're going to press it at 22.5 kilograms, 50 pounds, for the next 12 hours or overnight, if that suits you better. So this final pressing is to fully consolidate the rind of the cheese. So next day for me, the rind should be fully closed once we take it out of the basket. If it's not, press it a little bit longer at the same pressure until it's fully closed. And look at that, it looks pretty good to me. Now a little bit of a burr on the top, so we're going to trim off any of the rough edges with a sharp knife that has been sanitized. There we go, a little bit of a trimming there. I know two little West Highland Terriers that would like that. Hamish and Bonnie. You can go and check out their channel at the info card now. So, after placing the cheese on the cheese board, rub salt on all surfaces. Now, I found that with the coarse salt that I normally use, I couldn't get it to stick to the cheese because it was fairly dry. So I had a bit of a problem, so I put a little bit more on. Just spread that over there. And tried to put some more on that I'd spilled. Just a quick wash of the hands to make a decision. So what I decided to do was to pop the umbrella on top and let it sit there for about 30 minutes so it absorbs. And then I decided to use just table salt that was non-iodized and rub the cheese all over. I found this stuck to the cheese much better. So we have a nice dry rubbed cheese there. So air dry at room temperature now. And turn the cheese daily for 2 days, rubbing salt on it once daily. So that's after the 2 days. It looks pretty dry to me. Nice. It's touch dry, there's no moisture on the surface of the cheese. So now you can wax it or vacuum pack the cheese. Now I chose to vacuum pack. This is a nice simple cheese to do that to. Pop it in the bag and vacuum pack away. Now don't forget to write on the bag and mature it at 13 degrees Celsius or 55 Fahrenheit for 3 months minimum. There we go, all sealed. Back to Gav for more commentary on this cheese. So there you have it, goat's milk cheddar. Nice and simple. The stir curd method certainly is a lot easier than doing cheddaring, and you get a consistent result, especially when using the Starter Culture MA 4000 series. It has a little bit of ST, or Streptococcus thermophilus, which helps give it that certain cheddary flavour. It's quite nice, especially mixed with the other mesophilic cultures. So I'm going to age that out to about 3 months initially, just to give it a taste test. And then after the taste test, I'm going to vacuum pack the other half, if it tastes great, and age that out to 6 months and do another video on that once it's aged out a little bit. So this is my first foray into goat's milk cheeses that are harder than, say, Sherv or the Bloomy Goat Blue that I did many years back. So I'm very excited. I found a pretty good source of the goat's milk from the Coldamere Dairy, which is just south of Melbourne, on the other side of the city from us. And it sets a very good curd, as you saw in the video. So, join me back here again in 3 months' time to see the progress of the goat's milk cheddar after it's aged in the cheese cave at 13 degrees Celsius. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you get notified of more cheesy content like this one. If you're after supplies, don't forget here at littlegreenworkshops.com.au you can pick up cheese making supplies. We primarily service the Australian area and New Zealand, but we do ship internationally and the cultures get there without any problems whatsoever. So thanks for watching, Curd Nerds, and I'll see you next time.